He is actually does raise a good point as well, because I mean, in this, now referring back to sort of like the Get Down, because watching that is obviously it's a more of a theatrical tale of it. The way I look at it is like a hip hop musical done right. Like that's the way I resonated with it, and that's why I found it so enjoyable. Like getting to know the characters, but then also doing the research to know who was really there, who wasn't kind of there.
Right.
But even the construction of all of that, because I mean, there's already a lot of, and now I suppose in the last few years, Sugar Hill Gang themselves have started to reveal that not even the lyrics that they were spitting, first of all, wasn't even supposed to be theirs, and take jacking rhymes, and then this whole thing kind of exploded.
Right.
But in a sense of working on the Get Down, what was it like, working with Nas? Because he's one of the next people, like one of the people definitely I would love to interview, because he's like gold dust when it comes to wanting to get to like have like this kind of experience with.
Right.
But working with him, and then obviously like at this point working with Grandmaster Flash, and there's a few other big names that you've worked with on that whole production. I know a lot of us are upset because we know that there's a very low chance it's ever gonna get renewed, or the story may continue, but that's all for us. It is what it is, but it's still a beautiful tale as it is. What was that experience like for you though? Like having part of your history, your contributions now being brought to the silver screen, if you want to put it in that way.
It was like watching my life flash before me.
Oh, okay.
If you never had the opportunity, like if you didn't grow up during that era and never had the opportunity to go to a Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five concert, or Park Jam, or see us perform at a club like the T Connection before we made any before we recorded any records. The Get Down would have been the closest thing that you could get to being there.
Okay.
Like there were parts in the Get Down that like it made me cry.
Wow. Yeah, so well, me, I wasn't even there, but I'm teared up too.
It tugged at my heartstrings. Certain parts of the Get Down tugged at my heartstrings because it made me reminisce about how it was, and what we meant to our community when right before we started making records. Like right before we started making records, we were doing 3 clubs in one night. Before we ever made a record.
A stamina there.
Yeah, just word of mouth and giving out flyers, and the flyers had our pictures on it. We go around to every high school in New York City. We take a OJ.
Yeah.
The OJs would be playing our party tapes. We take stacks of flyers and go to every high school in New York City, and now every girl in New York City knows what we look like because our pictures are on the flyers. We are actually the guys who are giving out the flyers.
Yeah.
What could be better than that?
Real talk. And what I love about that generation is that, like sports, you know what I mean? You have a farm system, and you guys had a farm system, and you had to work your way out to actually make an album.
Exactly.
So can you talk about that a little bit more too? Because I think that's important.
So that was like, we were a farm team basically during that period, and we just kept training basically, which was doing parties. I think one of our biggest parties that we did before we had any hit records. Oh man, 1 second. I need to plug my laptop in, or we going?
Yeah,
that's all right. Or we're gonna have to do like a B continue.
Right.
Yeah. Part 2 coming soon.
Right. So one of the places that we played before we made any records. Well, matter of fact, we made one record, and it wasn't a hit, but it was marginally successful. Like everybody in the hood knew it. It was super rapping, and you know, everybody in the hood knew it because we were popular.
Right.
And so when they heard that we made a record, all of the people who knew us went out and bought the record. But it never got played on the radio, you know, during that time. And so we to us, we were still a farm team. Right. And so it just so happens that during that time, record company executives started hanging out at hip hop jams because they heard that this was a trending new thing.
Right.
So there was this dude, for lack of a better description, I'm going to call him the bootleg Terry Lewis. not to be confused with my legendary brother Terry Lewis from the successful production team of Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Not that one. So this is bootleg Terry Lewis. So the bootleg Terry Lewis lived in the projects. He lived in more houses in the Bronx.
Right.
And, he came to our jam and said he was a record producer, and he was the A&R for a record label called Brass Records, and they were interested in signing us. So we wanted to make a record, and so we got some of our friends together who had a band, and we took them in a studio in our neighborhood, and we recorded an interpolation of Stephanie Mills' song "Put Your Body In It."
Right. Okay.
And so we put our lyrics on that. We recorded our lyrics to it, and we delivered the master tape to the bootleg Terry Lewis, and then I don't know, maybe about a month and a half later, I was walking through a shopping area in the Bronx called Fordham Road, and there was a record shop on Fordham Road, and they had the speakers outside sitting on the ground, like some big speakers, and they were playing music outside, and it was the summertime or whatever, and I was actually on my way to meet with the rest of the guys from the group so that we could rehearse. And so as I'm about to pass by the record shop, I hear our new song, being played on the speakers out this record shop. So excitedly, I go in, and there's a long line. So by the time I had to get on the back of the line, so by the time I get to the counter and actually get to ask for the record had gone off. So I have to ask the guy behind the counter. I'm like, yo, let me get a copy of that song that you just played by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. And he looked at me like I had 7 heads and was like, who? I said, the song that it was just playing. I said, by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. He was like, oh, nah. He was like, you're mistaken. That song is not by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. I said, what? What are you talking about? I said, I just heard my voice on that record. I said, I'm one of the members of that group. The name of my group is Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, and that's our new record. You just played it. How you gonna tell me that that's not by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five? He's like, yo, look. And he hands me the record, and I look at the label, and it does not say Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. It says the younger generation.
Oh, so Rob Bootleg definitely done ripped you off, didn't it?
The bootleg Terry Lewis, he was bootleg and he was bootlegging.
Oh wow.
So
I had to start from somewhere.
I bought a copy of it, and I rushed to rehearsal. And when I got to rehearsal, I showed it to the group. We immediately decided that we were going to go confront the bootleg Terry Lewis. So we walked from Flash's house on Cypress and St. Anne's to Morehouse's. And when we get to Terry Lewis's building, we go upstairs in the elevator, get in front of his door, ring his doorbell. And when we rung his doorbell, we noticed that the lock cylinder was missing. And when one of the guys pressed the doorbell, the door actually flung open. And all his furniture and everything was gone. And we never seen the bootleg Terry Lewis again. And we never paid a dime for that record.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
To this very day. I couldn't even tell you where the hell Brass Records is. I don't know.
Oh, I suppose I suppose that's the thing you always hear about, especially when you're hearing the stories about the hustlers out there who are looking to hustle off whatever you're producing.
Yeah, they probably swimming with the fishes. Nobody know.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's true.
Right. Yep.
But wow, that's incredible. It is incredible.
Yep.
So then touching on to that as well. Then, so what was like the experience like putting together your first full, project with Grandmaster Flash and A Furious 5 when you're not dealing with, bootleg Mr. Lewis, but actually doing it on a.
You mean like our first album project?
Yeah.
So our first album project was recorded, with Sugar Hill Records, Sylvia Robinson, and right, and when we before we made any hit records with Sylvia Robinson and Sugar Hill Records, we would take cabs from usually OJ's from the Bronx to Inglewood, New Jersey, and she would pay for the cars. I mean, she would pay for the cab. But coming back from Inglewood, going back to the Bronx when it was time for us to go home, every single cab driver that we used leaving Inglewood, New Jersey, back to the Bronx, we used Inglewood car service.
Right.
And every driver who worked for Inglewood car service, when we got in the car, they would be like, yo, we hope y'all didn't sign no contract with Sylvia Robinson and them because they are crooks and y'all are going to get ripped off because they ripped off every single artist that's ever been signed to them.
Oh,
every single cab driver. When a cab driver is telling you that
shit.
Listen.
Yeah.
Rajesh has got the answers.
Exactly.
Oh wow! So I mean, because obviously you then moved from was it Sugar Hill Records and then was it to Electronica? Wasn't it that you? Yeah. So then that's where you obviously transited over. So they weren't half lying because as we all know,
they weren't lying at all. We never got paid any royalties at all when we were
nothing.
Sugar Hill Records. Never ever got one single royalty check. We only got advances. We never ever got a royalty. We didn't even know what royalties were. When we signed to Elektra, the very first piece of money that they gave us was our recording budget, and so they gave us $180,000. That was our first recording budget. Yo. We went absolute crazy. We went so crazy because Sugar Hill didn't give us no $180,000. They didn't give us a dime for our budget. All they did was make the studio available to us and then told us how much the studio time was when they charged us for it and recouped it from our royalties that they never paid us. All right? So when we signed with Elektra, and they actually paid us royalties and gave us a recording budget, and then we had, we got publishing, we got mechanical, like I get like 5 or 6 different types of royalties now. But when I was signed to Sugar Hill, I didn't get one. So.
Oh man, I think that's the craziest thing, and that's why I appreciate these conversations and your time for it as well. Is like the fact that it's never been black and white at all, ever. Like the fact that you guys had to go through all of this in order for for there to be some form of stability. And then even then, that's still not even transparent, because once again, the labels are still like 360 deals. There's like so many other ways that they're trying, because you've got like the SoundCloud rappers now, you've got people that can literally just make it off their own. And if you've got your own building, I mean, one of the key things here in the UK that we always comment about is that in the States you can literally just be big in your state, and you can be sorted. No one else ever know you at all.
You can become a multi-millionaire just based on the people in your own bag.